خورزت خالد Attayouta پیاشل سنیده بیاد بلومینگ بوکی خودم دبرانوتد سایمن اسلامپور.
خانم موقع به قبول آخری ممشنال خورزت خالد Attayouta من پرستا ممتنعت عاشورتا من مديتا شابرت سان فرانسيسكو بغزايتنا دو إيه وقت هم ديتا شابرتا إديوم يوما إتلانت بقتا عم خاءتا أطورتا تبقتن بيو بمس آيوتا خاءتا أطورتا خيتا إديوم بد أبيلي تبقتا أمو أكيل شابوها أكيل خورزة بتشوقنا خون أم شربت خيدها أتا وبدرخ بتأبخ أمو خون بدها تبقتن.
Mirza Grotts إلى خامونتيتم دبرانتا كاتبتا و Certified Etiquette and Protocol Consultant Attayouta دبريلا بمدينة تورلاك و جورفسلا بمدينة ساكرامنتو. بابو يوليوس ميرزا بريلا جو أطرت إيران بمدينة كرمانشا و منختد يمو جانت ميرزا بريتوا بمدينة فيلادلفيا جو أطرت أمريكا. ليزا قنيلة درجة بكالوريوس بشيتة ألبو تشامو تماني أربا جو خقلت Communications و Political Science و فيتلا مدبرانتت Protocol قا City و County of San Francisco و مدبرانتت Government Affairs قا San Francisco Giants و بقائم إلى شتسنتا مدبرانتت AML Group. بود شولانت لیزا پشتلا کتبتا یوم غلیات پریش اخ USA Today, Newsweek, The Sunday Times و هرب ایدانا آین ویتلا الرابا خورزت پرس قالا و پرس خزب پریشه و بشیت ترال بو اتجا بسمنتلا خکتاوا و بقائم إلى كتبتا یو سپارزونت هافینگتون پوست. پولخانه و آودویات شوتا پای ده Attayouta اینا رابا گمیره و ویتلا آودتا و هدمت سیتا سایومت درابا من آودویات و شد آس پریش اخ نرسایز Taste of Mediterranean Gala, San Francisco Suicide Prevention, Museum of Performance and Design و California Pacific Medical Center Foundation. لیزا بارزوگو میقرا جان گراتس زویگلوم شیتت الپوچمو اتجیخا و بقائم بخاینه بمدينة سان فرانسيسكو أطرت أمريكا.
يا خانم مغرب خاكي خيتا قبول خني ممشنا الخرزت خالد Attayouta اتلي هيوي أحشر بتخية أو يا مديتا قاتو خن Attayouta خطة شميلو خن إلى أميم يقرتا ليزا Mirza Grotts. Lisa, welcome to my show and to the Assyrian National Broadcasting.
Thank you for having me.
Lisa, we are just amazed by this beautiful view, and we're very lucky to be able to interview you, have a little talk with you about yourself, about women empowerment, etc.
Wonderful.
And enjoy this beautiful weather in this city today and this beautiful view. Thank you. Lisa, as you know, I contacted you via email. You were recommended to me by your cousin Sharakina from San Jose. I emailed you. You were very excited and you got back to me within a couple of hours. And you were excited to find out more and possibly be a guest on my show. In the first impression that you had with the email I sent you, why did you decide to be a part of my show?
Well, I was a little bit apprehensive because I don't speak the language. I mean, my parents both are full-blooded Assyrian. Actually, my mother is a quarter Armenian. And they spoke Assyrian in the house, but we don't speak Assyrian, my sister and myself. And so when you suggested it, I thought, well, this could be interesting. I'm not sure how it would work, but I'm all for empowering women, and I like strong women. And I thought, good for you. A young woman is, producing a TV show, and I thought, why not?
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa, what do you think women empowerment is, and why is it so important?
Knowledge is power, and to empower another person is a powerful thing. it's very important, I think, for women especially, because I think women in general are drawn to one another no matter what walk of life they're from. I'll give you an example. On our 10th wedding anniversary, my husband and I traveled to Morocco, and we had a Muslim tour guide named Nora, and she was lovely. And one afternoon, Nora and I went shopping, and we were just two girls like anybody else. You know, we had our pleasures and our fears, and it just made me think that there is so much diversity in this world that we should celebrate. But when it comes down to it, all women are really the same. I really don't think I can say that for men, but I think women have a common bond that we can all relate to.
You mentioned that knowledge is power. How important do you think education is in women empowerment?
Well, I think we often hear the phrase that education is the way out. I also think it's the way up. I mean, there is nothing like hard work to get you to where you need to be. In fact, in our community, I wish there was a mentoring group for young women. In fact, if there isn't one, I think we should start one. I would sign up to be a mentor in a heartbeat for a young girl. I mean, when I think about all these immigrants coming from other countries, and they come here and they don't know the language or our culture, they're completely lost. And I think it's very difficult for a young person coming out, or even an older person, really. And it often makes me think of childhood and, you know, babies and children, and they don't become somebody until they're trained. And it would be wonderful to help someone, you know, educate them that way. And I would start by, you know, kind of telling them what my life has been about and how through hard work, you know, I was able to get ahead, because I think it can be overwhelming for someone coming from another country to think, the greatest country in the world, how am I going to make it here?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think mentorship is very, very important. And perhaps today is the beginning of a mentorship group for Assyrian women that will contribute to their empowerment. Lisa, my next question for you is, how do you think women empowerment contributes to the community and the society?
Right. Well, as you know, I've done some volunteer work with the Assyrian Aid Society. Many years ago, Narcy David contacted me. And actually, I ran into him at another nonprofit event in San Francisco. And he said, I grew up with your mother in Turlock. And they ended up going to high school together. And, you know, as women, I think we were just born to please. So when he asked me to help out on the first Narcy's Taste of the Mediterranean, I couldn't say no. I was, again, apprehensive because I didn't speak the language, but my co-chair at the time, Mona Malik, assured me it would be fine. She would interface with the Assyrian community, and I did all the event, you know, planning and the decor for the hotel. We used to have it at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. So there's nothing like, you know, volunteer work, and a wonderful way to do it is through, you know, your community.
How was contributing to the Assyrian community, you know, how has this changed you or contributed to your life and may perhaps empowered you?
Right. You know, my parents loved being Assyrian so much. I say love. My mother's deceased. My father, I mean, it was a way of life for us, being Assyrian, even though I don't speak the language. I was born in Turlock in the Central Valley, but then we moved to Sacramento growing up because my father was an architect and his firm was there. But we were always, I would say, very Assyrian. All my friends in my neighborhood knew it. In fact, they still tease me and call me Azrian, because so many people don't even know what Assyrian is. You know, is it Syrian or are you Assyrian? And so, you know, being Assyrian has just been a way of life, much like other cultures, like the Jews and other cultures, you know, have their, and to this day, I mean, we, you know, eat the food. And even my husband, who is not Assyrian, he's from the South. He cooks kebabs, grilled peppers. He makes tortilla. So it's really just a major part of my life. I think those who know me know that I'm Assyrian.
Mm-hmm. That was actually what I was going to discuss with you as well. You know, a lot of people who are watching today this show, they may have not even seen you before. You know, we know you're very accomplished and you're Assyrian and you honor your heritage. You know, you go visit your dad in Modesto, I believe, Turlock, Modesto,
Yes.
many times, and you have a lot of relatives there. We're talking about possibly buying a home in Turlock because you love Turlock. What other ways are you honoring your heritage?
Well, I mean, other than helping out in any way I can, I don't think it has to be necessarily honoring my community. Just doing hard work and moving ahead in life, I think, is really, really important. You know, being ambitious and self-motivated and working hard, because my ancestors worked so hard to get us here. I don't know if I ever told you the story, but my father was born in Tehran with his family.
Yeah.
But when he was 11 years old, my grandparents sent my father and my uncle to boarding school in India, in Darjeeling, India. And they went to a boarding school called St. Paul's Academy, and they would only come home every other year. And my grandparents did this so their children could have a better life and a better education before immigrating to the United States. So I recall very well my grandfather's 90th birthday, because I remember the tribute to my grandfather, William, was very simple yet impactful. And he said, I owe my life to my father because of my education. So clearly I wouldn't be here today had it not been for my ancestors.
Your ancestors. That's a very beautiful answer. Lisa, growing up, how did your parents empower you?
Well, that is a loaded question, because I am so lucky that I come from such a grounded background. I know exactly, where I come from, who I was growing up, and I still do, which is why I love the small town of Turlock, even though I live in the big town of San Francisco. I love going home. I love it. I love it. I love it. But they just gave me so much, encouragement, and not just my parents, Miriam, but my extended Assyrian family. I would say it just goes so far beyond blood relatives. For the non-Assyrian, it's hard to understand when I say my aunts and my uncles. We do it as a sign of respect, and it's just easier than saying, no, she's not my mom's sister or my dad's brother. They're just family in every sense of the word. And really, had it not been for my parents, there's no way I could have accomplished all that I have. For example, when I was in my 30s, I sang the national anthem at Candlestick Park. That was one of my goals. I used to work for the San Francisco Giants. When I was in my 40s, I published a book on etiquette, on travel etiquette. Also in my 40s, I became a Huffington Post blogger. I write a blog on manners. And now in my 50s, I'm still working, of course, but at the same time, I'm doing a lot of volunteer work. I sit on 2 boards, that of the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. I was a music major in college. That's really my first love. And San Francisco Suicide Prevention. My husband's oldest friend and the best man at our wedding, sadly, took his own life almost 9 years ago. And so John and I have been very involved in, mental health. When I think guns, I think, mental health. Sometimes they get in the hands of the wrong people. And so I'm just very, very lucky. I also was lucky enough to work for the mayor of San Francisco, Willie Brown, who, by the way, is a huge supporter of the Assyrian community. For many years during Narcis's Taste of the Mediterranean, he would come every year, even when he wasn't the mayor. So I was lucky to have that as sort of a base and to continue on with my relationship with others in business, which has been really nice.
That's wonderful. And we are so lucky to encounter you and be able to conduct an interview in your 50s with you as well,
thank
Lisa.
you.
Lisa, growing up as a woman, coming up where you are today, what obstacles did you encounter and how did you overcome those obstacles? It could be an example for other women watching today, or little girls or young girls.
That's a really good question, because I think oftentimes women do have more obstacles than men. I mean, we're not quite there yet. We may be, because we have an election around the corner, a big election. I would say in my line of business that I'm in now, and I have been for 15 years, there aren't many men. When I think of obstacles, I think of, sort of men versus women. But I would say the obstacles I had are really ones that I put in place and could have been stopped. I think it was more me than anyone else, if that makes sense, that didn't want me to kind of go to the next step, slowly but surely. But, I don't even look at life as obstacles. I'm just lucky that I come from a family of optimists. There's never a glass half. It's always half full or all full, and even when things are heading south, everything's positive. So whatever obstacles I've encountered, I've just tried to forge ahead. After all, I was born in February, so I'm an Aquarian, and we are future thinkers. So I'm always thinking about what I'm going to be doing the next day and how I'm going to move up.
What motivates Lisa on a daily basis?
I'm lucky that I'm just a self-starter. I'm self-motivated. I get up in the morning. I don't even need coffee, although I love it with the morning paper. That's when you know you're not a millennial, when you want to read the paper versus read it online. But yeah, I'm just, not much has changed since then. I've always been sort of a self-motivator, self-starter. I'm a type A personality.
I can tell.
Yeah, you can tell, which they also call a disc D, which means, again, I'm motivated, I'm a self-starter, so it doesn't take me much to go. And I love to work, most importantly. I love to work, whether it be for money or nonprofit or for our community or my family. It's just, the adage we get when we give. And I think that's really, that kind of sums it up. I love to give to other people. It
You
really
love-
feels nice.
You love to be active and to give back
Yes.
to the community.
Yes.
If we ask your friends and family to describe you, Lisa, what would they say? Do you think?
Well, I have to go back to my mother, who told me when I was a baby, I used to laugh in the crib and entertain myself constantly. And because my sister didn't come along for 7 years after I did, she said I was an independent soul from, kind of the minute I was born, and not much has changed. I'm a very happy and positive person. And sometimes people say that I'm too nice. And when they say that, I take it as a compliment, because honestly, I'd rather be a happy person than, have a toxic personality where, people didn't want to be around.
Yeah, you are a very happy person, and you have a lot of positive energy.
Yes, it's
That is
important.
amazing for people to be around you. Like myself, I don't know you for a very long time, but I enjoy really our conversations, and I'm very happy that we can have this conversation today here with this beautiful view. And we're lucky that the weather is as nice in the city today, Lisa. We all have a life purpose. Perhaps this is my life purpose, to empower women, to introduce women like you to the Assyrian community that they don't know about. They could see you as an inspiration. If I ask you what your life purpose is, you also mentioned that you love to give, you love to contribute, but the main purpose, would you be able to describe that to me?
It's practicing what I try to preach, and that is the golden rule. If you're familiar with it from the Bible, it means doing for others as you would hope. I use the word hope, that they would do unto you. And that's it. That's my mantra in life. We get when we give. And I teach that in my etiquette classes, and I just think in life. In fact, to me, etiquette is more a lifestyle than it is a business. Because, I feel a certain sense of responsibility, because I'm in the business of making rules. And so I try to practice what I preach, which is basically the golden rule.
If you weren't an etiquette expert today, Lisa, what would you be doing?
Oh, well, I love art history, in particular antique jewelry. So I think a position with one of the major art auction houses, such as Bonhams and Butterfields or Christie's, would have suited me well.
Mm-hmm. Lisa, I've always believed that this quote, I love to read it every once in a while. Girls with dreams become women with vision. Do you believe in that?
I do, wholeheartedly. I mean, I love to dream. It's so fun to dream and then make those dreams a reality. Now, of course, my life pattern has gone completely different than I thought it would. I thought I would be a soccer mom, living somewhere in the East Bay with 4 children. And my life didn't turn out that way. It took a completely different turn. But I think to have those dreams, you really have to have a foundation and a focus. And I think it goes back to education. And, it's a start for everyone. We hear it all the time, but it's so, so important for young people to realize that. Recently, my husband's niece said, she's quite young, and she said to him, I know I need an education and it's important, but I just don't know why, because we've ingrained it into her for so, so long. And these are the things that make you confident and make you have power and confidence when you're growing up. And, family is so important too. And as I said, my immediate family, but I think an extended family, people that are just your cheerleaders, that are always there to be positive and, say you can do whatever you want to do. And I think that has been, really crucial in my life.
That is wonderful. Lisa, how did you stay focused on your goals?
How did I stay focused? Well, I've had so many different jobs, Miriam, in the years. I really have. I mean, I worked in public relations. I worked for the San Francisco Giants. I worked for the mayor of San Francisco. I worked for a city supervisor. I worked for so many different people. But then it really, when the mayor asked me to work on his campaign, that's when my focus sort of started. And I thought that I probably was in training for this position all my life, and I really just didn't know it, this etiquette job. I mean, that's really what it has come down to. I'm a teacher. I was a teacher. I was an education major in college, and then I changed midway. But after all, that's what I do. I teach. And so the focus is fun for me, because when you have your own business, you can do different things, and I'm sort of kind of excited to see what the next 30 years will bring in my career. And it's been 15 so far in the etiquette world, and I'm hoping to do other things and take it a step further.
Lisa, how has your husband supported you throughout your career, throughout your life, all these years that you've been married to him?
Well, John and I married later in life. I was 38 and he was 10 years older. And I think we were both very independent, and he wanted more of a partner. And so did I. And it worked out great. We don't have children of our own, but we have many nieces and nephews. And he is supportive of everything that I do, all of my, endeavors. In fact, I recently met someone who has become one of my new mentors in Dear Abby. I don't know if you remember the nationally syndicated columnist. Her name is Jeannie Phillips, and her mother was the columnist and died of Alzheimer's. And we met her in San Francisco, and John and I hosted a dinner for her, and she's since been helpful to me in my business because writing a column is something I'm interested in doing down the line, perhaps for children or young adults, which is one of my interests. So we'll see where that takes me.
Lisa, I always believe you don't have to become a mother, a biological mother, to take the role of a mother on you. You can be a mother to many other kids. Have you ever done that? Like you were talking about your nieces and nephews. Do you believe that you have been a mentor, a role model to many other children?
Oh, sure. I mean, well, when I started my business, I started teaching sort of Silicon Valley, young kids starting out. And then I would go to Fortune 500 companies and corporations, and I do presidents and CEOs, and I do new hires. But then I morphed into the children. And that's what I love to do more than anything, because really our children are the future. And they are the ones that I loved more than anything. And it is so empowering to be able to teach someone and know that they're going to go and take those skills and do something with it. In fact, one of my first clients that ever called me, I'll never forget this woman, she called me and said, could she do a one-on-one with me? And I normally didn't do that in my business. She was a young woman, she was Latina, and she had said that she was having some troubles at her office. Her boss had promoted her many times, so she was obviously very smart and very bright, but she felt like she didn't have the tools to move ahead. And the situation that she told me was there were a group of her boss's clients that walked in, and for whatever reason, maybe her heritage or her role, they had somehow made her feel inferior, and that infuriated me because these are people with pedigree who knew better. But what we also know is that money doesn't always buy manners. And I spent a day with this woman, and at the very end, it was a game changer for me because I knew that I had helped her, and it felt so good to do that to, she was in her early 20s at the time, but I've done it with 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds. In fact, the teenagers are probably the toughest. I remember my first teen etiquette seminar, and I remember calling my mother after saying, now I know why you drank in high school. And she said, kids are awful at that age, and I didn't have my own kids. And so it was really hard for me to work with that age group. The little ones are so cute. They'll do, anything, and they absorb everything. But the teenagers are sort of in their own world. So that was the hardest demographic for me. But I do feel like I've been a mentor to many people and still am.
And hopefully we will take that to the Syrian community, and we will have you as one of the mentors. I'm totally in for it, so we'll work on it. Absolutely. Lisa, what do you believe that is one or a couple of attributes of a strong and powerful woman?
I think strength of character. You have to have a strong character and be an honest person. When a man is strong, he's commended for it. But when a woman voices her opinion, she becomes opinionated. And I'd love for that to change. And we're seeing a lot of that right now with the election and just in general with women. We, in a certain degree, have always been discriminated, and we're just as strong. I mean, women, if not, are stronger. And we can, I think, multitask and think out of the box in ways that men cannot. And that's what I think draws us together as a group.
With the elections around the corner, we mentioned a couple of times in this conversation, do you believe women are good leaders?
Absolutely. I think the best rulers in the world actually have been women. In fact, one of my heroines is Queen Elizabeth. How many people do you know who can hold down a job for 60 years? It's remarkable. And so much so do I think women are good leaders that they changed the policy in England that now the heirs don't have to be male. Because, think about it, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth, these are just examples. There's so many strong women rulers that you bet.
Wonderful. Lisa, who is your role model?
Boy, other than my parents, I have so many. I mentioned Dear Abby, Jeannie Phillips. I'm so inspired by, hard work. My extended Assyrian family, I consider them my role model. And also God. I have to tell you that I'm very devout, and my mother was super devout. She was Orthodox, and she wore an Orthodox cross every day of her life. She never took it off. And when she got sick with cancer, I was so inspired by her. She was so strong, and it was so amazing. And I'm lucky enough to have her cross to this day. I recently gave it to my sister because my sister recently had a life-threatening cranial surgery, so I wanted her to have it. But I also have my mother's Assyrian Bible, which of course I can't read, but it was given to her by her Sunday school teacher when she was 16. So I'm so happy to have that too.
That is wonderful, Lisa. You are very much inspired and affected by how amazing your parents were growing up. And of course, your dad, you see him on a regular basis and he still inspires you. He also wrote a book about your family. And I was so lucky to receive a copy from you the first time we met. When you were reading your dad's book, what feelings did you have?
Oh, I devoured it. I read it once and then I read it all over again. It was so exciting. And by way of background, when my mother died, my mother was the youngest of 4 children, and her mother was in her 40s when she had her. So when she was born, her sisters were in her 20s, and when I was born, my aunts were all in their 40s. So she had a much older family. Her mother was like her grandmother, really. So when she died and I was writing her obituary, we realized there was so much about my mother that we didn't know because we couldn't fill in the blanks because they weren't alive to tell the story. So afterwards, I said to my dad, "Dad, you have such an interesting story. I would like you to write a book." And he thought about it, and it took him 7 years. And now we have the Mirza family story, which is a wonderful compilation of my dad's history and that many generations from now can enjoy. But it's so wonderful. I mean, a lot I knew in the story, of course, because he's my father, but a lot I didn't. It's over 500 pages. And I mean, he grew up in Iran, went to boarding school in India, immigrated to, England, then the United States. And, it was the story of him really coming over and living with the Syrian families and cousins. And, he didn't know what American football was. I remember him telling me his grandmother didn't even know what a banana, didn't know how to eat a banana. She didn't know that you had to peel it before eating it. So all that is so important. And I think it's really, again, I wouldn't be in this position today had it not been for my grandparents and the interesting life that they had. Fascinating. And such a wonderful book. And I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Lisa. And I'm so glad that you honor all that so much on a daily basis in your life. It's very inspiring on its own. I see an accomplished Assyrian woman today sitting in front of me and across from me, actually. And also, you're very inspiring. If I ask you to describe to me that one moment that was very empowering, inspiring to you in life, would you be able to?
Oh, there's so many. I'm inspired by little things, by small things. I actually collect poetry. I love poetry because I think people who write poetry are so wonderful and articulate, and I'm not. I was dyslexic growing up and still am, and so certain courses were always difficult for me, like math and English. And so I'm just inspired by the little things. Not long ago, Charles Schwab, I went to hear him speak, and he was talking about that he was dyslexic. And I thought, oh, well, okay, that's interesting. Here I am, just hearing this now. And he said, I don't look at dyslexia as a disability. I look at it like an added ability. And that's how I think of my life now, too. So it's the little things that inspire me. And yes, I can't do certain things that some people can, but I know I can do other things that other people can't. And so it's made me uber, organized and efficient, and really I can just accomplish a lot in a day. Sometimes my husband thinks it's OCD, and I would say, what's wrong with that?
How do you look at the Assyrian community today?
Well, I almost feel I'm an Assyrian American, so I'm a little bit like an outsider looking in because I was born here, and I wish that our community was a little more organized. I see other communities like the Jewish community and Armenian, and they seem to have a much more cohesive way of dealing with things. What I have seen of being Assyrian is there's too many different factions and too many different groups. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like we're not all on the same page. And I wish we could be. It's just terrible what is going on. It's genocide. It's hard for most people. I mean, we're talking about silly things during the election, and people are being slaughtered every day, that are our people. And it makes me sad that we can't, be more organized or, on a global level, really.
Well, first of all, after this interview, you're not going to be an outsider anymore. Everybody's going to recognize you everywhere you go. So, and I agree with you. I think we need some more organization within our community, and I think we all can contribute to it. And, you know, hopefully we all can do our part. And
I hope so.
I am certain we will see you more often within the Assyrian community at our gatherings, etc. You know, we talked about education, how important it is for girls, for women, how important it was for you. Do you believe that our community is educated enough today, or do we have to focus more on education, especially women education? I'm talking about Assyrian women, to get where we need to get as a community.
I'm not sure I'm even qualified to answer that. I don't know how educated Assyrian women are. I mean, when I think of Assyrian, I think Assyrian American, but certainly, you know, building more schools would be wonderful. I mean, I don't speak the language, and I wish I did. I've always wanted to. I wish there was a school where I could go and, you know, learn Assyrian, but I would love for, you know, young families. I know there's churches always being built, which is wonderful too, but I would love maybe one of these churches to be a school to help some of these young people out. Just a thought.
I agree with you. Schools are very, very important for us in diaspora because we're losing our language.
Well, we're losing our language, and I think that's the fear from what I understand for a lot of people here working with the Syrian Aid Society. They're just fear that we're going to be extinct. Well, we are, because people are being massacred. But on the other hand, do we want that, or do we want them to come to this country or other countries where they can, you know, be safe? And I completely understand that. I get it, but it's hard for me because I'm born in this country. You know, I'm from California, and so I really only know what my dad and other people I know from, you know, that were born in Iraq or Iran, you know, kind of know. But I hope it happens. I really do. And I'm happy to help in any way that I can.
Lisa, I wonder what your dad would say if he knows that you're on Assyrian TV.
My dad is on a cruise in Canada right now, and he called this morning, and I forgot to tell him, but he will be thrilled to watch me, I'm sure, and have the honorable mention, more than one. Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. Last but not least, Lisa, I would like to hear your message for our Assyrian community who's watching today, maybe in particular the Assyrian women, the Assyrian young women who today are watching and may see you as an inspiration, as an empowerment, as, you know, may see you as a mentor. What is your message to them?
Well, I like to use the word that knowledge is power. And when you have power, you have confidence to do a lot. I would tell them that I would never take any of my success for granted. Never. I'm very humble about that. It's all about hard work. I mean, to the outsider or, you know, someone looking in could say, oh, it has been easy, but it hasn't. I worked hard, very hard for many, many years, and I will continue to do so. So I think I'm inspired by, you know, hard work. Mentorship certainly helps if we're lucky enough, you know, to have that. And because we're Assyrian, most of us have these wonderful families. And that is a great start. That's a great, you know, beginning for making kids grounded and being able to move to the next level. So I would say never take anything for granted and just work hard and, you know, keep your eye on the prize. And education is one of the golden tickets.
Yeah, keep your eyes on the prize. I like that very much, Lisa. Again, I would like to thank you for allowing us to come here with my crew and everybody else to be your guests and to conduct this empowering interview with this beautiful view. And I'm hoping to have you as a guest on my show more often in the future. And perhaps we can work together on the mentorship.
Thank you very much.
يشغل مغبة عبيتم باسي مدبيلو خن أمان جخ خلق تخيتا من خرزة خيلة أتايوتا من دهم ديتا شابرتت سان فرانسيسكو اتلي هي بيها فقتي أمي قرتا ليسا ميرزا جروتس أويا إيفيتا مهنيان تاقاتوخن أختيو شعبو بالطلبة منوخن تخمنياتوخن شركتون أمي ين إن إيتن خدع التاعتوريتا دبايتن أويا شركان تا يخرزة خيلة أتايوتا شادرولن تخمنياتوخن قاتي المريم @anbsat.com هل دو خرزة خينا بتشوقا نوخن بشينا
خرزة خالد أتايوتا بياشل سنيدة بياد بلومينغ بوكي خدم دبرانوتد سايمن أسلامبور